But seriously, this is a serious problem for Democrats. Less than 1 in 4 Democrats under 30 say they're proud to be an American. 54% say they're embarrassed by it. Embarrassed. Like America's your mom picking you up at school?
Bill Maher turned on the Democrats and nobody saw it coming. He ripped into them in real time, holding absolutely nothing back. Let's get into it.
Yes, my vote is in play. I'm not voting for anyone who thinks the wrong side won the Cold War or cheers for the Intifada like it's the World Cup. It's so ironic from the people who obsess about colonization. You know what's being colonized now? The Democratic Party. Last month, 2 Democratic congressmen released an open pledge they wanted their fellow Democratic members to sign. It said, "We are capitalist, not socialist. We want safety, not lawlessness. We are proud, not ashamed of America." These should not be hard words for a congressional Democrat to sign on to. You know how many did? 8. 8 out of 212. Guys, really, there's got to be an easier way to lose the swing states.
8 signatures, that's the whole story. 2 Democratic congressmen introduced a simple pledge supporting capitalism, law and order, and pride in America. Yet out of 212 House Democrats, only 8 signed it. That becomes even more stunning when compared with national polling. While 81% of Americans view free enterprise positively, only 39% feel the same about socialism. Among Democrats, however, socialism now leads capitalism by 66% to 42%. Republicans overwhelmingly favor capitalism, 74% to 14%. This isn't a minor political shift. It's a massive ideological divide.
And no, this is not where most Democratic politicians are right now, but it's also becoming a raging fire festival in the party that neither is anyone putting out. People are actually getting elected now who literally don't think we should have police or prisons or borders. And again, they're not lying about who they are. The media is. Ask Ms. Chevalier about the border. She says, yes, literally abolish the border. You know, if you call a woman a whore and everyone gasps and then the woman says, oh, no, he's right, I'm literally a prostitute.
Abolish the border. Abolish the police. Abolish everything. But the numbers reveal a massive disconnect. Even at the height of the 2020 protests, only 15% of Americans supported abolishing the police. Meanwhile, 70% favor closing the border, and 69% support tighter asylum restrictions. Maher's point is brutally simple. The party that once represented working-class Americans is now embracing positions most working-class voters strongly reject.
Believer. This crowd literally wants to get rid of our form of government, the Senate, but also, and I quote, replace the president and Supreme Court with an executive and judiciary chosen by and subordinate to Congress. Yeah, no biggie. Just taking the very essence of our government, which is 3 branches checking each other and canning 2.5 of them. Who could be this nuts? I'll tell you who. Morons who are still wearing COVID masks in 2026. This photo is from the DSA meeting in Denver 3 weeks ago.
Abolish the Senate. Reshape the Supreme Court. Strip power from the presidency. But Americans have already rejected that vision. Polling shows overwhelming support for the separation of powers and 3 co-equal branches of government. Only 9% want one branch to dominate the others. Maher's message is brutal. If 91% of the country rejects your agenda, it isn't a serious policy, it's a fantasy. Then he calls out the group behind it.
Okay, I'm just going to say it. Since the far left, the far, far left, is overwhelmingly made up of affluent, ultra-woke white people, you raised your kids wrong. You told your precious brats that every brain fart was genius, and now those brain farts are becoming Democratic Party policy. Francesca Hong, yet another major Democratic candidate who's all in on abolishing the police and is running for governor of Wisconsin, says, I think that my perfect world would be a world without prisons, because we all see the humanity in one another, and then we know nobody's disposable.
Ivy League activists, sheltered students, and privileged kids who were never told no. Maher says, this is where the far-left revolution is really coming from. Not working-class neighborhoods, but elite private schools and colleges charging $85,000 a year. And in Wisconsin, state Republicans' 1 in 24 gubernatorial candidate Francesca Hong openly supports abolishing prisons.
Yeah, Carville said, I'm done. I'm not in that fucking political party. Now, Gavin Newsom disagrees. He says he's good with it because the party is a big tent. Well, you know what else you find in a tent? Clowns. It's so funny. So many liberals themselves, every time Trump puts gold on something in the Oval Office, oh, it's historic. And the separation of powers isn't? I would vote for Sarah Palin before this. She's a bimbo, but if you asked her to come up with something she likes about America, she could do it. You betcha.
Bill Maher just said he'd vote for Sarah Palin over what the Democratic Party has become, and the numbers explain why. A 2026 NBC News poll found that only 30% of Americans view the party positively, while 52% view it negatively. Its favorability has plunged since 2020, and even young Democrats are losing faith in the party's direction. Maher's diagnosis is brutal. When your own voters can barely say anything positive about you, the brand isn't struggling, it's completely broken. Then he delivers one of the sharpest examples of the entire show.
Because even Cracker Barrel recently decided that they felt a little embarrassed that it was so popular with bumpkins who salivate at the sight of an old wagon wheel screwed to the wall. So they changed it to this, which got them no new customers while pissing off the old ones. It reminded me of when Chuck Schumer said in 2016 that for every blue-collar Democrat we lose in western Pennsylvania, we're going to pick up 2 moderate Republicans in the suburbs of Philly, Ohio, Illinois, and Wisconsin. Yeah, how'd that work out? But at least Cracker Barrel had the sense to immediately say, oh, sorry, and put the sling blades back on the wall.
Maher uses Cracker Barrel as the perfect warning. Try too hard to modernize your brand, and you may drive away the customers who made you successful. That's exactly what he believes Democrats have done. Schumer's 2016 strategy was to replace blue-collar Democrats with suburban Republicans. Instead, the party lost working-class voters without gaining enough suburban support to make up the difference. Maher's conclusion is brutally simple. This isn't political strategy. It's basic math, and Democrats keep subtracting from their own coalition.
Democrats don't seem to be doing that. They still seem to want to be that upscale store that impresses celebrities. Anybody remember Barney's? It was this store in New York that started in the 1920s, as a discount clothing joint on unfashionable, grimy 7th Avenue, a place where their customers, though working man, could get a decent suit at a very reasonable price. I remember going there in 1993 to get my wardrobe for a new show Comedy Central was launching called Politically Incorrect. Thank you. Yeah. We had no budget, and this was a place you could buy 5 suits for $2,000.
Barney's began as a store for working-class New Yorkers. Then it reinvented itself as an exclusive playground for celebrities, and eventually went bankrupt. Maher sees the same collapse unfolding inside the Democratic Party. Working class voters once made up 56% of its coalition. Today, that number has fallen to just 30%. The message is clear. When you abandon the people who built your brand, they eventually abandon you.
Problem is, there's kind of a stink on it because you know who is president right now. So the left half of the country fears he'll make the anniversary about him. Of course he will. I even bet that on Kalshi. The question is whether we all will help him do it. We shouldn't. This is about America. He isn't America. He's the temporary caretaker of America. America's employee. And the message should be that America isn't actually his, and that no one side gets to own being psyched about the country. So I'm not down with this attitude of, well, we're having a party, but if Trump's going, I'm not. Go to the party. It's a big celebration. You probably won't run into him.
The country is bigger than any president. That should be an easy message for any political party to embrace. Yet a 2026 YouGov poll found that half of Republicans define patriotism as unconditional support for the country, compared with just 11% of Democrats and nearly 5-to-1 gap. Maher's argument is blunt. You don't boycott America's birthday because you dislike one man attending the celebration. That's teenage rebellion, not serious leadership.
But seriously, this is a serious problem for Democrats. Less than 1 in 4 Democrats under 30 say they're proud to be an American. 54% say they're embarrassed by it. Embarrassed. Like America's your mom picking you up at school? You're embarrassed to be an American? Well, guess what? The feeling's mutual. Because you have no perspective. Is America perfect? No, of course not. No country is. Although don't get Tucker Carlson started on Russia. But the U.S. is leagues ahead of the rest of the world on most of the progressive issues that are important to young people.
The Harvard Youth poll number Maher just revealed is only the beginning. Critics argue that what makes it even more alarming is who these young voters are expected to become. The next generation of teachers, journalists, politicians, and parents. An entire generation raised within the Democratic Party appears to have concluded that the country it will inherit is not worth defending. In Maher's view, that is exactly the future the party is walking straight into.
The smartest thing Democrats did this year was finding their patriotism again. If you told me a year ago that if Kamala Harris would be the nominee and in her acceptance speech she would use the word privilege, I would not have guessed that she used it the way she did.
The greatest privilege on earth. The privilege and pride of being an American.
Yeah, and Tim Walz also began his speech with a great line saying, we're all here tonight for one beautiful, simple reason. We love this country. And yet this message doesn't seem to be catching on with a lot of the younger people. None of them are standing up and screaming, that's my country. Quite the reverse. Quite the reverse. The protests that started off as justice for Palestine have morphed into a broader kind of...
Kamala Harris and Tim Walz suddenly started preaching patriotism and national pride after years of sending a very different message. But voters recognized the last-minute rebranding and rejected it. Maher's point is brutal. Patriotism isn't a costume politicians put on before an election. When a party treats the American flag like a campaign prop, Americans stop trusting it. Then Maher delivers a devastating reminder of what the old left once stood for.
I wore it every day, and nobody thought it meant that I loved Nixon. Because 50 years ago, liberals didn't concede patriotism. Abbie Hoffman was the quintessential 60s radical, and when he had to appear before the House Un-American Activities Committee, he wore an American flag shirt, which some cops later ripped off his back. Because the message that most threatens authoritarians isn't America sucks, it's America is ours too. Every election year, Democrats seem to remember patriotism for about an hour at their convention when they're trying to win back swing voters. The whole message of Kamala's speech in 2024 was take back the flag. That's why she talked about America like a pageant contestant.
The greatest privilege on earth. The privilege and pride of being an American.
Hard to believe she lost, huh?
The old radicals protested while proudly wearing the American flag. They challenged the system because they still believed the country belonged to them. The old left said, "This is our country too." The modern left increasingly says, "This country was never ours." For Maher, that one shift explains the tragedy of modern liberalism. It went from fighting to improve America to rejecting America entirely.
Well, you can't take back the flag in an hour if the rest of the time you treat patriotism as something vaguely embarrassing. It shouldn't be, even though we are far from perfect. You know, in 1976, when I was wearing that T-shirt with my nut hugger shorts, America wasn't exactly crushing it then either. Inflation was around 6%. Mortgage rates were almost 9%. There was actually a thing called the misery index. The average person earned far less than they do today. They had a smaller house and watched a tiny TV that had 3 channels, mostly I Love Lucy reruns. The closest thing we had to euphoria was Three's Company. Our AI was Cliff Notes.
6% inflation, only 3 television channels, and genuine hardship, yet Americans in 1976 still wore the flag with pride. Maher's point is sharp. Life today offers longer lifespans, better medicine, greater opportunity, and technology that once seemed unimaginable. Yet the modern left appears more miserable than ever. When online outrage replaces perspective, people stop seeing the country they actually live in and focus only on everything they've been told to hate.
And I'm not going to get upset about things that haven't happened yet. And when I look around, America is, it's a place with a lot of problems. But also, compared to the rest of the world, it's doing better than most places. And, a lot of people are just living their best lives.
Are you this way, period, or did it take you a little while to get to this point after the election?
I was ready for Trump to win. I thought that she would win. I thought that America always basically moves forward and not backward, but I was wrong. I was certainly not surprised because I did not think she was a great candidate.
That's how a serious adult talks about their country. America has problems every nation does. But the average American still enjoys a life millions around the world would risk everything to have. Maher believes Democrats have forgotten that perspective, and the numbers show the damage. Only 30% of Americans view the party positively, while 52% view it negatively. Its support has fallen sharply, and nearly half of young Democratic voters now view their own party unfavorably. This isn't a messaging problem, it's an identity crisis. Unless Democrats learn to respect the country they want to lead, they'll keep losing elections they should be winning. Maher sees the warning signs. Voters see them too. The only people refusing to turn back are the activists dragging the party toward the cliff. So is Bill Maher one of America's last genuine liberals? Can Democrats survive if their own young voters are ashamed of the country? Let us know what you think in the comments.